When I was in my early 20s, I had this girlfriend. She was good looking, she was fun, but she was crazy. Absolutely batshit crazy. She always wanted to do everything that she wanted to do, but she didn't ever want to do other things I thought would be fun. She criticized my music, like Metallica and bands like that. And again, this is, early 2000. Yet, she liked to listen to her hairband metal music, but I couldn't. She was psychotic. She had a lot of issues, which I learned later, but she was crazy. But I liked her, right? Obviously, she was my girlfriend. A lot of times, we get infatuated with something, even though they restrict the things that we want to do, we allow them to. That happens in relationships. I'm going to talk about this in this episode. This is going to be spicy. It's going to be heavy. It's going to be a lot of meat and potatoes. You won't want to miss this one. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Range Minded Podcast. I'm your host, Steve. Always grateful to have you guys here with me. This episode is going to be probably one of the most emotional episodes I have done in a long time. It's going to probably be a little bit long, but I'm going to do my best to be concise and give you the information which I have and which I've looked for, researched, and established here in my notes, which I'll be referring to often. So if I'm not looking at you, I'm looking at my show notes because there is a shit ton of stuff to talk about. And I am going to be emotional. I'm going to be fired up. You're going to hear me frustrated, and you're going to understand why by the end of the show. I'm probably going to lose some of you over this episode. Maybe I'll gain some more. I don't know. This episode is going to be rough to listen to. This is episode 274, The Crazy Girlfriend Syndrome. All right, as you guys know, my show is dedicated to the Second Amendment, whether that be the culture, the laws, the tools themselves. We're talking anything related to the Second Amendment. Guns are not the only thing protected in the Second Amendment. We're talking knives and pepper spray and tasers, anything we would use to defend our lives and our families against violence or tyranny. The Second Amendment, as we've talked about ad nauseum, has zero to do with hunting. Zero. None of it. I know you guys know this, but I'm telling you, I'm already fired up, and I'm going to do my best to give you this information. Okay, let's start at the top. I'm not going to go do a deep dive into every one of these things point by point. We're going to kind of water ski over them and have a conversation. But do me a favor. Stick with me in this episode, because by the time we get to the end of this show, I need your input. We need to have this conversation, and then we need to be talking to the correct people after the fact. You'll understand where I'm going with this in a minute. So please stay with me. All right. 1934. Okay, June 26, 1934, the NFA came to pass. Why? Well, we can thank FDR and his elegant wisdom trying to curb gangster violence, mobster violence, and all this other BS that was going on, right? You got to understand, they had prohibition, they let the mobs run crazy. The whole country, well, at least not the whole country, inner cities, major cities were falling into depravity due to organized crime. Why? Well, maybe it had something to do with some of the laws that were already in effect. And then to fix those problems, they create more laws. You're going to see a pattern here. Government has a tendency to get in their own way at the price of our freedom. 1934, NFA takes place. Oh, that was in June 26. Would you look at this? June 30th, 1938. Same president, FDR, does the Federal Firearms Act, the FFA. Now, this required licensing for all manufacturers and dealers selling firearms. Again, this was to curb mobster violence starting in the 1930s. Now, let's jump to 1968. So almost exactly 30 years, we had those laws. That was the only restriction. Again, I say illegally. Now, again, let's jump back to the NFA real quick. What did we lose? What freedoms did we lose? Okay, short-barreled rifles, off the ticket. Short-barreled shotguns, off the ticket. We almost lost handguns. Very close. We almost lost handguns. When you dig into the NFA, you're going to find out there was so much incompetency by the federal government and their anxiousness to take away your firearms that we almost lost everything. We also lost suppressors. Yeah, I know you're going to say, Steve, you can still get that stuff. It's not gone. You're right. It was a $200 tax stamp imposed to its citizens who wanted to go do this. Why $200? Because that was a shit ton of money for the citizens to come up with to pay for that right, granted not by the government, by somebody else, maybe God. Yeah, I'm going to say, yep, God gives us our rights to defend ourselves, not the government. The government is unable of granting rights to anybody. So we lose this stuff. Infringement right away. Now the Federal Firearms Act, the FFA, just a few days later, that required licensing for all manufacturers, dealers, and importers. You might say, so what, Steve? So what? What did we lose? Probably nothing other than it was another right that was restricted by these individuals trying to do business. They already had to have business licenses, but yet here we go. Let's make them have another license regulated by the government to have to see exactly what's coming in and out of the country. All right, 1968, June 19, LBJ, another Democrat, throws in the next step of firearms regulation. The Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act. Prohibited interstate commerce of handguns, and then set the age of handgun sales to 21. So a lot of you might not understand. You might think, oh, that 21 age restriction is fairly recent. No, 1968. We can send boys to Vietnam to shoot full autos, grenade launchers, play with napalm, fly airplanes, all this other shit, but nope, you cannot buy a handgun if you're 21 years or younger than 21 years old. God forbid we give you the ability to have a short-barreled rifle because, well, who knows, and 21, that's the age that you're smart enough and grown up enough to buy a handgun. 20? Nope, can't do it. The competency of the government is not there. All right. Would you look at that? Same year, 1968, the GCA takes place. This was in October instead of June. October, GCA happens. Oh, look at this. LBJ, president, Democrat, once again. Expanded federal gun control, banning interstate firearm shipments of individuals, prohibiting sales to prohibited persons, and then tightening dealer regulations. Democrat. Okay, so if you're keeping note, 2 Democrats so far. Nothing happens for 22 years. 1986, May of 1986, the Gipper himself, Ronald Reagan, decides, well, you know what? We need to change the GCA just a little bit. And here we are, we're thinking, great, we're going to have some rights back. Yeah, sort of. But what did we lose under a Republican president? Well, fully autos. Anything built after 86, nope. Which then they made anything previous 86 exorbitantly expensive. Plus, don't forget, plus your $200 tax stamp. Is it a loss? Yes. I'm an absolutist, by the way. Yes, the government has zero right to regulate these. Zero. Yet here we are for your safety, right? I told you, I'm going to get fired up in this one. It's going to get far more fiery, by the way. 1988, November 10, 1988. Ronald Reagan, president, by the way. Guess what? Republican. Thank you. Banned firearms that are undetectable by metal detectors. As far as I can understand, I think there was some kind of worry that there was going to be these polymers and other manufacturing techniques that were completely undetectable by metal detectors. And maybe at that time there were some that we didn't know about. As far as I know, anything manufactured during that era is still detectable, was detectable then. I could be wrong. Maybe there was some information I don't have, but whatever. Thanks, Ronald Reagan. Let's restrict the innovation in the firearms industry just a little bit more. Way to go, Gipper. A couple years later, George W. Bush, H.W., George Sr., November 29, 1990, did the Gun-Free School Zone Act. This is where a lot of our problems start. As far as community violence, school violence, that kind of stuff starts here. I understand the intent of keeping guns, making gun-free zones in schools. I get the intent, but it sure didn't do what they thought it would do because they're uneducated rulers. Let's see. Gun-Free Zone Act, November 29, 1990. Prohibited firearms within 1,000 feet of schools other than licensed carry holders, that kind of thing. Now, this bill was later changed, okay? It was later struck down. All right, 1993. The Brady Bill jumps into place here. The Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act. Sounds so nice. Now, if you don't know who Brady was, not Tom Brady, but Brady, I don't remember Mr. Brady's, whatever his name was. I don't care. I don't like that guy. I don't give a shit about that guy. He almost died during the Ronald Reagan assassination attempt by, was it Sirhan Sirhan? Is that who shot the president? I could be wrong. I don't really care anymore. Yeah, it's sad. Brady almost died. He was handicapped because of that. He took a bullet for the president. Way to go. Way to do your job. Good on you. Anyway, Bill Clinton, president, Democrat at this time, mandated background checks on all firearm sales from licensed dealers. Okay? Still, private sales never affected. What did we lose? Another, not really like lost anything other than the government in my business of commerce sticking their nose in, making records of every firearm purchase from that point on. Yes, I know, there is no database. It's not searchable. We learned that from Stephen Dettelbach. But still, NICS came in, right? Background checks happened. I get the intent. We don't want prohibited persons. We don't want violent felons having guns. If they're violent felons, why are they on the street? Question for the day, right? Right there. My heart rate is increasing, folks. It's pounding right now. And it's going to get worse. All right. 1994. I am old enough to remember this. 1994, the assault weapons ban takes place. AR-15s, any of those scary assault weapons, right? Bayonet lugs, grenade launchers, all this bullshit. 1994, the assault weapons. Guess what? Bill Clinton, Democrat. You just need to make sure this president and affiliation is important information for you. President Clinton, Democrat, banned certain semi-automatic weapons. Later, that expired in 2004. Thankfully, that had a sunset provision in that bill. Because now you and I here in the United States can purchase an AR-15, which is the most popular firearm in the United States to date. Millions and millions and millions. The number's somewhere around 20 million. I say it's much higher because that's only what's been sold by dealers. I think that number may be double that, by the way. I could be wrong. Thankfully, again, that law sunsetted. Oh, now we're getting a little bit more current in time. Let's jump up to 2005, October 26th. George Bush Jr. Last time I checked, he was a Republican, right? Republicans are pro-gun, right? Is that what we understand? Pro-gun Republicans? Okay, let's check this out. Lawful Commerce Act. Oh, this one was actually good. Forgive me, W. Forgive me. This one was lightening some of the restrictions. This one made it to my list. It wasn't supposed to be on there. But this one was the Lawful Commerce Act, granting immunity to guns that were misused for acts of crime. By the way, other corporations and industries have the same thing. If a gun breaks and kills somebody, manufacturers are still liable. If somebody uses a gun and commits a murder, the manufacturers are not liable. Weird. It probably should be the person doing the act, right? Let's think about this. If a drunk driver plows into 35 people at Mardi Gras, oh wait, that actually happened. My bad. If a drunk person drives in, hits somebody in a car accident, kills the person, do we sue Budweiser? Do we sue the Ford Motor Company? Nope, it's the person behind the wheel that's the issue. Just like it would be the person behind the firearm committing the crime that would be the issue. Now, this here is trying to be battled, and right now in court currently, this is trying to be attacked by a lot of different people, a lot of the gun mommies, the anti-gun mommies, and the nuts crowd out there. They're trying to take away the ability here granted by George W. here, the Lawful Commerce Act. This is important. That you got to stay abreast on. Maybe we should do actually an episode on that. We'll talk about that at some other time. Here's where it starts getting real, folks. Here's where it starts getting in-depth and important for you, because this is now 2022, June 25th, the Bipartisan Safer Community Act. We've talked about this before. This keeps getting recycled and pushed again and morphed and pushed again and pushed state by state, city by city. This is a big deal. This affects you right now, okay? The Bipartisan Safer Communities Act created a stricter, deeper background check. Again, pushed the 21 and older rule for firearms buyers. Increased trafficking penalties and what's the word? Straw purchases. The boyfriend loophole. Tried to attack the gun show loophole, which literally does not exist. I don't know what the hell they're talking about there, but whatever. It's just a way for the Democrats to really push hard on gun control. Really, really hard. This is still being an issue. Again, states, cities, and municipalities, like, they are pushing this extremely hard. This is not dead. This is never going to be dead. This is something we have to really fight until somebody, I don't know, maybe the acting administration needs to step in and say, enough. Please pay attention. This is not going to go away anytime soon. Another thing I wanted to look at was SCOTUS rulings that kind of influenced some of the stuff. We already talked about, actually we didn't talk about this, United States versus Miller. This was over the NFA. The United States won that one, so the NFA stood. Again, then in 1995, there was U.S. versus Lopez. That was under Bill Clinton. That was actually got the gun control or the gun-free zone struck down, which I don't really remember that happening, but that was 95. Had other things to do. 2008, D.C. Heller. We've talked about Heller before. That was a great thing. McDonald v. Chicago. Extended Heller information, which is great. Bruin decision. We've talked about Bruin before. Hallelujah. Wonderful thing. That was under Biden, by the way. And then another under Biden just at the end here was the Rahimi case, which upheld felons not allowed to carry firearms. Again, if you're a violent felon, you should be in jail. If you've paid your due to society and you're out, you should have all of your rights restored, both voting and your Second Amendment rights. It's not fair for these people that have paid their dues to society to be victims. That's not fair. Now, if they go and do a crime again, boom, zero tolerance, they're back in jail, and we execute the laws that already exist. We don't create new ones just for them. I got to open a drink because this is where I'm going to get a little spicy, a little frustrated, very angry, and you should too. I'm not even going to edit that out. All right. Now, I talked about the crazy girl syndrome before I go into this next segment. Crazy girlfriend syndrome. They have something that's attractive about them. We like them. They don't want to do what we like to do. In fact, they impose these stupid rules that are for us, but not for them. They make our lives more difficult, and it ends up just being a nightmare in the end. No matter how good the makeout sessions are, no matter how good she kisses, it's not worth it in the end, right? Many dudes have had that kind of girlfriend. Maybe you still have that girlfriend. I don't know. That's none of my damn business. But you know what I'm talking about. There's women out there, or men. I guess there's dudes that are the same way. I don't know. I don't date dudes. But you're in a relationship where the person is absolutely psychotic. You get gaslit. They push you into a corner. They manipulate you. They tell you what they want to tell you so they can get what they want, right? That happens. I know some of you already know where I'm going with this. You ready for this? You might need a drink of water. Or something stronger. Gun control laws and rules passed by Donald Trump, including his first term. Fix NICS. 2018, March 23rd, 2018. Donald Trump consolidated a lot of the stuff in the bipartisan measure. Like, a bunch of people agreed with this, so you know the compromise wasn't worth it. Increased background checks. Agencies made it better for agencies. Now, I guess this should have happened before, but agencies needed to communicate better on prohibited people, so all the information was shared, and the background check system would be fixed. Sure, fixed. Okay. Again, restricting and creating a bigger clog in the information highway where more people are getting either delayed or denied because of misinformation. Maybe somebody lied, whatever. They say it wasn't a gun control measure, but listen, honestly, is NICS even, like, is that not some form of gun control? Again, if you're a violent felon, if you're a prohibited person, you shouldn't be on the streets causing problems. Weird. Maybe we follow the laws that already exist, that we persecute those people that are breaking the law to the fullest extent possible. After a trial, of course, we're not just going to execute terrible judgments on people that don't deserve it. All right, number 2 on the list of Donald Trump's wonderful agendas. December 18th, 2018, the bump stock ban. Now, I know some of you might say it's just a stupid piece of plastic that goes on the end of the rifle. I agree, it is a stupid piece of plastic that goes on the end of the rifle. I don't want one. But here's the kicker. I don't care if you want one. Great, you can have one. It is an accessory, as stupid as it may be, whatever. Should it be regulated by the federal government? Hell no. If I want to put an accessory on my gun, I should be completely allowed to put an accessory on my firearm. It is an accessory, like sights, maybe a different selector lever on an AR, whatever. It's an accessory. But because of terrible perspectives of people in office, a bunch of lies, and don't forget, wonderful Pam Bondi, Trump was all about bump stock bans. Well, that was, I guess, the red flag laws, which we're going to get to in a minute. My bad. Nonetheless, bump stock bans, Mr. Trump said no. In fact, I believe in one of his town halls when he ran the second term, somebody asked him about that. He's like, well, bump stock bans are really unimportant, and I followed the NRA's. Well, so screw the NRA too. They're stupid as well. Until they clean up their house, I don't want to be a part of them. I've talked about that a million times before. I don't need to get into that. That's not this episode. Okay, bump stock bans, right? Okay, number 3. This didn't happen. Thankfully, this didn't go through, but age increase on firearm purchases, which they've tried. Okay, that one's come up, 3-4 times now? Nonetheless, President Trump, Pro 2A, Republican, tried to pop another law in there. Oh, yes, here we are, February 28th, 2018, red flag laws. This is what I meant to say with Pam Bondi. That means a red flag law is somebody can say something, we can take their guns away without any kind of trial or anything, any kind of hearing to see if it's a legitimate complaint. Nope, we'll take the guns away, then we'll evaluate them, and then we'll worry about doing any kind of legal proceeding to take somebody's private property away without you get any money back. I can't remember, for some reason I can't think of the term, reconciliation or whatever, right? What, you're just going to take my rights away because somebody says I'm crazy? Great, nice. Again, this was President Trump. He was all for it, by the way, and I believe he still is all for it. But don't worry, he's the best Pro 2A president we've ever had, right? Now, this next one, okay, sure, maybe somewhat pro 2A, but Trump signed in 2017, Trump signs a resolution to remove something off of NICS. What is the mental health? Let me just read this so it makes sense here, because I didn't really read this one because it was more pro-gun than anti-gun, because I'm really looking, I know that's slided, right? Because you look at all the pro-gun stuff that he's done, but this is what I'm talking about in this show. This is important. Overturning Obama-era Social Security Administration rule that required reporting for certain beneficiaries with severe mental impairments to NICS, potentially barring them from gun ownership. Critics argue that this was overly broad. Trump and the NRA framed it as protecting the Second Amendment rights. Again, so if the NRA says it, it must be good. That one, I guess, is fine because it removes some of the false reporting from stuff that shouldn't matter. This one actually is good. I'll give Trump props on this. He repealed the executive order on carrying in national parks, so now we can carry in national parks other than in some structures that we can't carry in, but can still carry inside national parks. Bonza, super good. That was 2017. I'll give him a kudos for that. Okay, that was all just first term. Okay, here's the second term. If you guys remember, Trump signed an executive order about Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice going through all the gun laws that are happening and infringing on people's rights, which honestly, some of them are his own infringements that he's pushed on us in his first term. So that's great, sure, whatever, fantastic. Let's give him a high five. But here's the problem. We can't just look at Trump and what he wants to do. We have to look at what the Supreme Court is doing. A majority of people, remember, 2 of those justices were his that he put on in his first term. Garland versus Cargill. That's when we received the bump stock bans back, but there's some other stuff tied in there. But it's great because we got bump stocks back again because that's a stupid accessory. Then Rahimi came back again, right? We talked about a little bit before. That was part of Democrat stuff in the beginning. Still, the Supreme Court upheld the restriction on felons, convicted felons from receiving their Second Amendment rights. But again, that was a majority Supreme Court of conservatives. Vanderstock. This is very recent. This is classifying the ghost gun thing, right? Now, from the beginning of before American history, we could manufacture our own firearms in our homes, no big deal. It was our right as a citizen. But this whole ghost gun thing, well, they're scary, and they're showing up in crimes because anybody can buy a ghost gun, even though it's their freaking right to build a gun privately. There's already laws that exist if you sell these guns, outside of keeping them yourself. Yep, there's laws that exist. That's an unlicensed dealer, and guess what? That should be federal prison. But what do we do? We take away the rights of the law-abiding because of somebody else that's breaking the law. By the way, these are already convicted felons. Most of them that are breaking this law, they're buying these firearms. They're so easy to buy. You buy them offline, make a kit, and in 20 minutes, put it together. Even though the ATF, special agent, couldn't even put one together. Your rights restricted under who? A Republican president named Donald Trump. I made a tally here. And maybe I'll share this on the screen somehow. Actually, I can do it this way. So if you're just listening to this, I know this is going to be hard for you to see because you need to really watch the videos on YouTube and Rumble. So here's a list of things that I made, just a little bracket of lists of major gun control, or at least gun legislation over the last years since the turn of the century, which really started the last century, by the way, 1900s, which really starts in 1938. That's the most pertinent, the NFA, all the way down to current Donald Trump. Now, again, it's easier if you watch instead of listen to this, but I'll do my best. So I bracketed them out, what the name of the Gun Control Act, the date that it was done, the president, and their political affiliation. Now, if the NFA, that was FDR, Democrat. Again, Democrats were the first 4 major rulings. And then Ronald Reagan jumps in. He has a couple of his own. Then George W. Bush throws one in there. Then Clinton has a couple. Then Biden, really that's more than just a Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, but he's on there. And then Trump. Bump stock ban. Red flag laws. Executive order on firearms. And then we come down, here it is. Sorry. There's a lot, all right? There's too many. One is too many. But I decided let's just tally all these. Now, this number at the bottom of this bracket does not include the things on this list. This is an actual consolidated list of all the things done in the last 20 years, which, well, really, it wasn't the last 20 years, but the last two presidents, which were obviously Donald Trump and Joe Biden, of the total amount of gun control measures, executive orders that they put together. Look at this list, by the way. If you can't see it, if you're only listening, President Biden had the most out of any of the presidents over the last few years, 20 years or whatever it did. I can't remember what the actual date range was. At 5. He had the most at 5. 5 anti-gun rulings and bills and legislation. But here's the problem, my friends. Donald Trump, even though he's only a few weeks into his second term, he currently sits at 6. Donald Trump has more gun control measures, rulings, and executive orders than any other president since 1900. Don't worry, he's your friend. He's your friend. Now you tell me, is Pam Bondi, is she really doing the things that you need to do? The things that you want to see? I don't know. Maybe she's doing things behind the Iron Curtain that we're not looking at. That might be happening. Let me ask you this. What about Kash Patel? He spoke at Goals last time. What do you think about that? Has Kash Patel done anything that's really worthwhile? Can you think of? Can you name me one that's helped your Second Amendment rights? What about Dan Bongino? Extremely two-way. He's the number 2 guy at the FBI. Any noise from him whatsoever? Nope. Only thing we have heard regarding the ATF, which, again, Kash Patel said he was going to, well, I guess with the FBI headquarters, he was going to gut the FBI and turn it into a museum. And now he's in charge of the ATF, which we expected, a lot of the same things. Yeah, go, rah, rah, let's change the ATF up. What are we seeing? Oh, maybe what we're seeing is they want to bring in the Drug Enforcement Agency, the DEA, and mix it into the ATF. Wait a minute, I thought we were going to get rid of the ATF. Now we're making it bigger? But there's more. They've talked about throwing the ATF in with the FBI. So we're going to have what? This ginormous super agency that has unlimited funding, unlimited investigation powers. Wait a minute. We thought you were going to be reducing government. Now you're talking about increasing it. Where's these promises, President Trump? I remember you said you promised your first day, maybe the first couple days in office, you were going to help the Second Amendment community, yet here we are. You're a liar. Again, I knew I was going to piss some of you guys off, and I know I'm going to lose some of you guys, whatever. We're being played. We're being played. We're being lied to. He has used us to get elected, to get the votes he needed, with a promise. We look at gaslighting as this other stuff. It's only the Democrats do it. Friends, we've been gaslit. Now, maybe we're just not seeing what's actually going to happen yet. Maybe all this stuff is happening behind closed doors. He's going to reveal this amazing thing. We're going to get the NFA repealed and the ATF completely neutered down to just a few agents, making sure that background checks happen. Who knows? Whatever. But does he have a pro-2A history, or is he just telling you he does? Listen, my gut is telling me something here, and it stinks. I think we've been played. I hope I'm wrong. Now, let me tell you this. I voted for Donald Trump. I voted for him every time he's ran. His first term, I absolutely feel like he was the right president at the time. I absolutely do. I feel like, or at least I felt like, this second term, he needed to be in office, which he's doing some great things. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of fantastic things that are happening under President Trump's second term. I love to see what Doja's doing. I love finding the fraud and the waste and taking care of all that. I'm 100% for that. But to look us in the face and promise us that we were going to have the best Second Amendment ever, whatever, you're going to get all your gun rights back. Yet he said that last time, and he is the most gun control, pro-gun control president we have ever had. He may tell you that he's not, but he has done the most to impede the Second Amendment than any other president that we've had. Now you might say, oh, Steve, you're overreacting. Just relax. Just wait. Maybe I need to. Maybe. I hope I am wrong. I don't think I am. I don't think I am. Yes, I know we have Bruin. We have Heller. We've had some great, fantastic rulings come out of the Supreme Court. But when you look at the whole, when you look at the entire picture, are you with me? We can't be given crumbs while they're taking away the loaf of bread. That's what I'm trying to tell you here. We are being gaslit. We are going through the crazy girlfriend syndrome, where we ignore the big things and take the little wins. This is what I'm talking about. Here's my next argument. Here's the next part of the show, which is again going to extremely boil my blood, which should help you see the lens that I'm looking through. Let's talk about some important people in the 2A community that are being ignored, that are being pigeonholed into a slot and ignored by the rest of the community. There's a few of us talking about them, but not enough. Let's talk about my friend. My friend. Yes, I have spoken to this man. My friend, Dexter Taylor. Now, in 2022, Dexter Taylor was arrested for having unlicensed firearms, again, which was legally protected. At this time, this stuff wasn't even a law in New York City. He lived in the Bronx. But yet, here we are. He gets convicted. He's serving 10 years federal prison for stuff, for a paperwork issue. He didn't license these things. But under his Second Amendment rights, he should have been protected. But no, because New York City is such a shithole. Get this, the judge told him the Second Amendment had no place in her courtroom. He couldn't even argue a basic, fundamental, enumerated right. He couldn't use that as a defense, a civil right. He is a political prisoner right now because of rogue judges that ignore the law and then legislators that create bullshit laws to entrap the law-abiding, yet allow the criminals to run amok. Because the only ones that are going to follow these laws that they're pushing are citizens, law-abiding citizens who don't want to, be a criminal. Yet all of these enactments that the legislators want to do just impede the law-abiding. Criminals are going to do whatever they want. They don't care about the law. Yet people like Dexter Taylor get sucked up and now are serving time in a federal prison over something that was already protected by the U.S. Constitution. Oh, there can't be that many cases, right? Right? Well, maybe we should talk about Matt Hoover. Now, Matt Hoover had a popular YouTube channel. He was also a firearms manufacturer and a dealer, by the way. Him and his buddy created, and I should put his name in here. Christopher Irvin. I think that was the other guy. They created the auto key card. Basically, it was a piece of, I think it was aluminum, and it had the full auto key or whatever it was. I can't remember the name of that thing. The lightning switch. I don't remember what it's even called right now. I'm having a brain fart. Anyway, they created this as an etched detail of the schematics of this thing that's controlled, right? It makes your AR-15 a machine gun. But here's the thing. Now, you just hearing that, you might say, yeah, that guy should have gone to jail. He was violating the NFA. Except it was just an etching on a piece of aluminum. Somebody would have to literally spend a lot of time cutting and machining the parts to work. Here's the other thing. It wasn't to scale. It wouldn't have worked if an individual had cut those out to make it work. It wouldn't fit. They would have had to spend a lot of time. It was not readily convertible. But, you know, the ATF, in their wisdom, they found a way to use some shit in their parts warehouse to make it the same size and to put it in an AR-15. And here's the thing. They put it in, it didn't work. Then they manipulated it, did some more work on it, and they were able to fire one round, not even full auto. That was enough for the ATF to say, yeah, it's a machine gun. It's a machine gun. So guess what? Matt Hoover and Chris Irvin are now in federal prison over a piece of metal that wasn't even to scale, that wasn't cut out, because the ATF said so. The ATF manipulated the evidence and their reporting to make these guys criminals, and they did nothing wrong. Really, it's a First and Second Amendment issue. Their freedom of speech was infringed on this as well, because they were making a novelty item that just had a design etched on the metal. Again, not to scale. It wouldn't have worked if somebody spent the time cutting it out exactly to those lines. It wouldn't have worked. But Steve, just those three people, right? Just those three people. Nothing else? All right. This is the one that really starts to boil my buttons here. That made no sense whatsoever. What about Tate Adamayak? I got to get that guy's name right. Tate Adamayak. Patrick Tate Adamayak. Navy veteran. Actually, he was going to go into special warfare. I think he was going to be in a SEAL, an E5 or something like that. A very good guy. Upstanding individual. Now, Tate had a gunbroker account. He was selling parts. He wasn't selling guns. Okay? Not full firearms, just parts. Not illegal, by the way. Tate also enjoyed collecting things. He had bought RPGs that were demilled, and in order to demill an RPG, they cut a giant hole in the side and take out all the firing mechanism. The reason that giant hole is cut in the side, that if you do happen to find a firing mechanism, you put it in there, you put a grenade in it, it's going to blow your face off because the way that the hole is there. Not readily convertible. Another thing is, if you guys understand how welding works, you can't just patch weld a thing on there because then it changes the tensile strength of the metal. So no idiot's going to weld a plug on there and expect it to be safe. But this is all this stuff, like the fire control unit, all that, that's regulated. It's not like something you're just going to buy and put together. But Tate, another thing Tate did is he liked to buy these replicas. He bought a replica, I don't remember what the name of the gun was, but it was a replica machine gun. Completely inoperable, unusable, made out of like cast parts and pot metal, completely unusable. Well, the ATF saw it and said, hey, he is selling an unregistered machine gun. And to prove it, we're going to give it to our armorer, who's going to take parts out of our giant warehouse of parts, and he converted it to cycle. Not full auto, by the way, just bang. One bang, yep, that's enough. It's a machine gun. Excuse me? It's a toy that's not controlled. The other parts that he was selling on Gunbroker and that he collected, they were not a controlled item. Completely legal for anyone to buy. Yet the ATF and their confidential informant decided to create this case out of whole cloth, and now Tate is serving time in prison because of a rogue agency and terrible judgments. Come on now. Now I know that's not Trump's fault. I get it. But guess who could get this guy out of prison? Guess who could get Matt Hoover and Chris out of prison? Now, getting Dexter is a little bit different. That's a state case. Trump can't do that. But you know what? He could sure put some pressure on the state of New York. But guess who hasn't? Now, Steve, come on. There can't be any more convictions like that. There's nothing like that rolling around, is there? Well, here's the problem. Yeah, there are more. There's lots more, by the way. These are just the names of the people that came to mind right off the bat. These are just the people that we hear about. The ATF scoops up people far too often. But don't worry, we have a promise here in 2025 that our gun rights are going to be restored. In fact, I signed an executive order for Pam Bondi to go look at all the gun laws that are on the books to help people. The first couple of days in office. Anybody else been looking at their watch wondering when? But don't worry, he's the most pro-gun president we've ever had, and he'll tell you so. Certainly, the government doesn't have any more history that are basically skeletons in the closet. Certainly, there's nobody else out there that's had any sort of issues with the ATF, right? May I present to you Brian Malinowski? Does that name sound familiar? He worked at the airport in Little Rock, Arkansas. He was also a collector. Now, yeah, he was buying a lot of guns and he was selling a lot of guns. But last time I checked, private sales are legal. Should he have got a FFL under the current law? Maybe. Wouldn't have made more sense for the ATF just to knock on his door and say, hey, we need to talk to you. Come into our office. Or, hey, the sheriff's office shows up, hauls him to the sheriff's office and says, let's talk to you about this stuff. No, they didn't decide to do that. In fact, they did a no-knock raid bright and early in the morning with flashbangs and full autos and kicking in the door, causing complete chaos. Well, this is how many of us have a gun at the ready when necessary in a safe close to us? Most of us, when we hear a bang in the night, yeah, we're going to the door with a firearm, just like Brian did. Now, instead of an agency taking somebody in to question them about cells that look fishy, no, they kicked in his door. He thought it was a home intruder. He went to defend his family, and the ATF just decided to gun him down. Shot him dead. Does that sound like an agency we need to be keeping? May I present to you Ruby Ridge and Waco? Does the ATF sound like an agency worth keeping? No. So why in the hell why are we dragging our feet on this? Why is the president who made a promise to us, you and me, Mr. and Mrs. Gun Owner, the hundreds of millions of Americans that own guns, this is how we get thanked? You leave these people in prison? You don't uphold your promise about pulling back on gun rights? Instead, we get the ghost gun thing, creating more felons, law-abiding citizens who exercise their right to manufacture guns that's been around longer than the country itself. Is this how you thank us? That's it. We're just going to keep this agency and just keep this bullshit going. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that something's going to change. But when I hear just the other day that they plan on merging these agencies together instead of disbanding and throwing away the ATF like the dirty tampon that it is, nope, we're just going to keep it. Why? We're just going to continue to be gaslit by flowery words and a big ego. Is this how we're going to play? We're going to watch you put anti-gun people into large positions of power. I'm talking to you, Pam Bondi. We know who you are. Happy to take guns away and then talk about going to court afterwards. A lot of us are paying attention. Why in the hell would you put her in that position? Why? I hope I'm wrong. I hope all of this is just wrong. But the numbers are not lying. Donald Trump has done more to infringe upon your Second Amendment rights than any other president in history. I know, now I'm just talking numbers, right? We're just talking how many bills and executive orders have come through. He's the number one guy. Mr. President, as a voice for all the Second Amendment community, Keep your promise. Keep your promise. That's all we ask. There's a lot of bullshit laws out there that need to be gone, that are a direct infringement on the Second Amendment and have been since the inception of these laws, particularly the NFA, then the Gun Control Act. Those need repealed. Put your money where your mouth is. We're tired of waiting. You told us it was happening within the first few days of your administration. We are a quarter in of this year. Have we seen anything? Nope. Just more anti-gun stuff. We're tired of it. I'm tired of it. You, Mr. President, you and Miss Pam Bondi, both of you, it's time to go look at these people that I just talked about and the hundreds of others that are wrongly convicted and not able to use their Second Amendment right as defense that are sitting in prison. They need to be freed. They are political prisoners. You let the J6ers go. What about these other wrongly convicted individuals? It's time. It's time to keep your promise and make it happen. Because I promise you, the Second Amendment community, those who actually give a shit, we don't forget. You don't believe us? Look at the support of the NRA. We don't forget. And we will petition, we will rally, we will do everything we can to make our voices heard. We're not going to do stupid shit like beat up Tesla dealerships. That's asinine. We actually peacefully protest. We know how to contact our legislators and make our voices heard. And we will put pressure on those individuals. Live up to your promise. That's all I ask. That's enough for my rant. I want you guys to know how much I appreciate you. And thank you if you stuck around this whole time. Thank you. If you like what you heard in this episode, please like and share it. Leave a comment below. Tell me where I'm wrong. Talk me out of the tree. Please, I hope I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me what things President Trump has done that were pro-gun. I want to hear them. Let's list them. We need to be sharing this information. If you want to support the show, which would be greatly appreciated, again, the easiest way to do that is just to like and share this video. That's the easiest and the freest way to do it. If you want to support the show financially, you can jump on the website. There's patches you can buy there. I'm actually thinking about, let me show you this. Okay, this is a sneak peek of something here. You see that guy right there? That's a 3D target that I'm working on. Those may or may not be available on the website at some point. I don't know. You tell me. Actually, leave a comment down below. I have this and a lot of other cardboard targets that I've been working on. If you want to see that kind of stuff for sale on the website, please let me know, because I wouldn't mind, making some extra money. If you look at the socials, you can follow me on X at RangeMinded, or anywhere else, Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok at RangeMinded Podcast. There's also a link tree available on there if you want to help, through the Patreon or whatever. That'd be awesome. I wouldn't complain. But really, the biggest way you can help out is just liking and sharing this video with others. That would be fantastic. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for sticking around. Don't ever give up on your Second Amendment rights, and always hold your politician, your representation, hold their feet to the fire, no matter what party affiliation they are. We are the ones that are in charge. We are the bosses. They work for us. It is not the other way around. That is the way the Constitution was designed. It's for we the people to have the ultimate power and the ultimate say. They are our voice. They are not our supervisors. You guys be safe. Make sure that as you're carrying, you're doing the right things, you're following the right protocols, you're following the law, and you're carrying safely. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you take somebody shooting, and as always, stay range-minded. Peace.